into it. And now AL can pick the Kalista early if they want, and they will still have the opportunity to grab the Swain later if they so choose. So might make things difficult for TT.
Okay, so crucially, a totally different look from Betty and Chocho here in game number 3. We saw an interview with Chocho earlier today, and he said, my favorite pick right now is the Amumu. Well, it's not been banned. The Kalista has been locked in. I feel like Chocho gets to do a YaoYao here in game number 3.
Yeah, I mean, you're into the Aphelios as well. Probably will take cleanse, but you're not really bothered. You just can set up those plays and make it happen. And Aphelios has been the standard answer to that Kalista. So it makes sense for that to come out. Now, my question is, do we see the Swain on 3? Because I think if you're going to pick it, now is the time. If Forge is going to feel confident, because I don't think he'll get through the second ban phase. Alternatively, you could look to prioritize jungler here, something like the Lee Sin, because that will probably take the fall in the second rotation of bans otherwise. But we are going to get Forge's Swain, and the bonus is you have the AoE lockdown of the Amumu ult, and you're going to get that bonus magic damage onto everyone as well. So I think AL are more than happy with how this has gone.
Yeah, pretty nice start to this one for them, as the Gnar is going to be locked in. I wouldn't have been surprised to see Hoya go for the Kragas again, honestly, just to try and deny some of the engage that's coming through from the side of anyone's legend right now with that Amumu. Let's see, though, as we head towards our second round of bans, Jack's taking off the board away from ZDC.
Yeah, talking to some of the top laners, I think Lee Sin is probably going to be the next ban for TT. For AL, I think they'll look at supports. They could look at mids as well, I guess. But for supports, there's things like the Nautilus is still open. Braum could even be a problem into the Amumu, right? Having a lockup. Can also block the rend application, but we'll see what direction they opt to go there. For now, they have taken away that Talia.
I feel like, so we see the Gangplank ban. This Gnar blind feels particularly rough against specifically ZDC, because his top 2 picks are Gangplank and Camille, both which are very, very good into that Gnar. So Hoya, I feel like he's going to end up against the Camille here, and he's not going to have fun time with it.
Yeah, now TT toying with the support options. Obviously, they know the matchups. They can leave mid to late until they see more of the comp. Alistar has that point and click aspect into Kalista, and they will opt for that instead of the Braum. So another really powerful thing is, like, remember the ultimate for Swain? You need to stay in range to make it work. Alistar doesn't have to combo. You can just headbutt you. Just yeet you away from the fight and let that time out. Now, the expectation is we're going to see the Lee Sin for Xiaohao again. No reason not to. Had a fantastic game on it, even though they did lose. And now comes the top and pick. You even set it up. There's the Camille.
Yep, it's been a classic for ZDZ this split. He's got a 60% win rate over 5 games on that Camille. He will lock it in to take up against the Gnar. And then we have a Seraphine locked in for the mid lane here for Ucal. Not a pick that we've seen in the mid lane, I think, at all this split, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think we've only really seen it with fasting center lanes.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to be real. There is much higher priority on Seraphine in Europe, for example. I know in the ERLs it's like a first rotation ban, not just for its pairing with Seraphine, but like as a solo AP bot laner. You could also play at mid. She did get some buffs on 12-12. She even got hotfix because of her too much. Her E, slow, root, or stun duration is higher. And essentially, you know, in a composition like this, you have so much buff potential that you can give over to that Aphelios. You can kind of mitigate a lot of Swain's damage, because one thing to bear in mind is that Swain doesn't have that highest damage output. The reason he's strong is because he has so much sustain, and it's the constant long fights where he gets value. If you're into a Seraphine, then it's like, okay, you're doing, you know, AoE damage, and you're just going to get that healing and shielding in return to really mitigate that.
Yeah, it feels like Swain will struggle to get through the shields and through that healing, as you say, but it's going to be a lot down to how the rest of the team is going to operate in this one as well. I'm curious about ZDC. I feel like ZDC has been one of these top laners that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit because the top lane pool is just completely stacked this year. But I feel like ZDC has been quietly really performing up on that top side. Did get outplayed quite a lot last game against Hoya's Gragas, but did an amazing job early on. Now, has a positive lane matchup with the Camille versus the Gnar. We'll see what kind of impact he can have in this game.
I feel like the Camille is something that he's really done well on. I remember in spring, there's this team fight I love when they were up against CDG. He was on the Camille, and he found such a beautiful flank in it. This is kind of the expectation. When we get to those team fights in this one, it's going to be on AL to be creative, find those windows. And TT, it's about playing bounce. It's about protecting Kepler. And I think, you know, with that being how the team fight plays out, it's also worth emphasizing that TT really want Kepler to be strong, right? You have a jungler reliant on resets. You have a mid laner who doesn't have the highest damage output. A top laner who's reliant on Mega. You need this Aphelios to be strong if you're going to come out ahead in this game. So I think the focal point should be bought, at least to an extent.
Yeah, and especially for Betty, if they can get this Kalista ahead, you know, that's going to be fantastic for them. But like you say, the Aphelios, if he can survive that early game, will become a nightmare later on into the game. But now, looking at the junglers here, you can see both are going to focus on the top side to start things off. And it could mean we get a bit of an early scrap. I wouldn't necessarily anticipate that with a Seraphine and Aphelios on the side of TT. With a Kalista, with a Swain, there is a lot of setup for plays from AL.
Oh, actually, see, just in the bottom right, this is the ward that, remember, there was that early strategy. It was actually from TT, but there's a similar ward placement that caused issue with that level 1. Regardless, we got things starting off. ZDZ doing a lot to try and pressure Hoya early. I feel like ZDZ really has had the edge in the series so far. Game 1, it was that gangplank where he gave a lot of trouble to Hoya. Game 2, despite the fact Hoya really scaled up and was fantastic in team fights, there was still such a huge deficit in the 1v1. So hoping that Hoya can just step up in this one and not fall so far behind.
I'll have to see. Did very well in the team fights, but struggling in the 1v1 across the course of this series, and we'll have to see. Ucal gonna have to show us his stuff on this Seraphine. He was, in my opinion, one of the biggest players in that second game of the series. His Sylas looking fantastic, and especially after last split, feels good to see him performing well. It's a very different style of champion to Sylas, though. Ucal has to play a much more defensive style, and certainly in the early game won't have the same level of presence.
Yeah, but a lot of power, and the thing is, when they're grouped up, when they're clumped up, you get all the notes value. The ultimate, though, is such a fantastic tool, especially since you can, like, ult into your E, and your E will stun. When teams are diving you, Seraphine is just so good anti-dive. So I like the fact it comes out. It's a very hard lane to punish on the Seraphine unless you get ganked, just because of the fact that she has so much wave clear, and obviously a decent amount of sustain as well. It's hard to harass you out. It's hard to really provide pressure because you can just burst out the wave should the enemy team either want to try and freeze on you or have push. You see some combos coming out there for now. Xiaohao looking for this scuttle and should just be able to secure it before Beichuan even gets a look in.
We'll secure the scuttle and might look for a little more as well. Does land the Sonic Wave onto Beichuan, pushes him all the way back. Trying to contest this blue buff. His bottom lane moving over, but it looks like Betty and Chocho will return to that bottom side in the end. Xiaohao deciding this is a little bit too much for game number 3. Remember, we're 3 games into this best of 3. And AL started things off extremely strong, right? One game number 1 out, looked like the better team. Game number 2 started with a big lead for themselves, but then TT were able to clutch back a victory. And I feel like Xiaohao deciding against that invade kind of shows the way that this series has gone. You don't want to be too confident going into game number 3 when it's been such a dicey situation. Wait, you can Black Spear while they recall? That's so OP.
I didn't actually know that, but I do know that lots of teams, they won't do it level 1 because if you're trying to like defend, set up, it can really delay that and make it a little bit of a pain. So often in like solo queue, people just do it level 1 in competitive. It's quite rare, and that was a pretty good timing for them to do it, obviously on the recall, so not much missed, and showed you're going to be able to get back on the map. Now, Xiaohao did go up to the top side and get that second scuttle. I feel like he's had more agency with the early push in the lanes, but now we see this big wave bouncing back bot, and Beichuan has moved to cover. But here's the problem, is we have the same situation in the top lane. Both sides dealing with big waves, but Hoya should be able to get out and just evade that gank.
Yep, he'll be fine, and it's one of the natures of Gnar as well. Your boomerang's so long range, you don't have mana issues, so you can just mash that boomerang out to CS from a distance. He'll be okay. While we saw Xiaohao spotted on the top side, it does mean Drake is started here from Beichuan.
But Joe, this might be it. This might be the window where a jungler starts the first Drake and doesn't get contested and have it stolen.
It's finally time. Beichuan gonna get the first Drake of the game without dying. What a moment in this series. For context, for anyone who missed game 1 and 2, we saw whoever was red side started Drake 1 and died for it both times.
Yeah, and lost a Drake as well to make matters worse. So the fact Beichuan can get in on this, get it early, really nice to see, especially since they have these scaling picks like the Seraphine, like the Aphelios on the boss side of the map. Being able to secure that dragon and not be punished for it, definitely a positive. We see here Forge going to try and just establish and vision on the top side. Next objective will be that Herald in a couple of minutes, but for now, Xiaohao on the bot, and it's been a relatively quiet early game. The only real thing I know is ZDZ really has found an advantage on that top side. There is a big wave going to crash into Hoya. I don't think it's going to be enough to pick up the CS discrepancy that we are seeing.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to try and reduce that once again. You can see some statistics on your screen. I can't read Chinese, so I don't know what they say, but they look pretty cool. Yeah, it's the mid laners that we compared at the start of the day as well. Two players that, at the end of the day, have had massive splits for themselves compared with their reputations. We were just talking about Ucal earlier. Forge, this player that's been around for, what, 4 years in the LPL, I think, at this point, and has been fairly underwhelming, but known for those melee mid laners, known for the Akali, the Silas. These are the kind of the picks that you know him for. But this Swain, this split, really has been his bread and butter. It's been denied or kind of declined by AL across the course of this series so far. Now we finally get to see his Swain on the stage once again.
I feel like it's such a good meta for him. You know, they were talking earlier, there was a little interview about how AL are just leaning into that comfort picks, you know, not necessarily adhering to everyone else's meta and going for what works for them, but Silas is meta, is a great pick for Forge. Kakali is good into Silas, which is also a good pick for Forge. And this Swain, as much as it definitely feels more meta for AL than other teams, it is still, you know, a general pick we expect to see. So some fantastic things they've made work so far. Now, do you see with the bot lane, things have started to feel a bit more confident for TT's bot lane, and the initial levels are kind of held at bay. But I think threat starts to come at this sort of point, especially when Kepler has the Gravitum. That can be the main concern for the Kalista. You get like the Alistar combo into the root and just don't really get a chance to function.
Yeah, I feel like both junglers as well have been trying to make things happen. Like we saw Xiaohao go top, we see Beichuan hovering topside as well. But mostly, it's been playing around the waves for their laners, right? Making sure that their laners are able to push things in, able to clear things out. Beichuan, though, started with that first Drake, now looking towards a Herald as well, as Chocho and Betty will just clear vision for now, not trying to show the fact that they wanted to rotate up, but looks like they will stay in that bottom lane. And in fact, the Herald not started by Beichuan in the end.
Wait, I don't think he got spotted at all, though, so this is really smart. Because he went over the Herald and look at the
all
fight.
in on the bottom side. It's red and white for Kepler, and that means it's time to fight. But he's locked up. The Ren comes out, and Betty and Jojo just win the 2v2, stacking up the Ren on the Alistar. I don't think Betty is long for this world. He'll do what he can, but you know what? They already got themselves the 2v2 kill. They lose 2 for it, though. And now TT, an opportunity to crash in the bottom side.
Yeah, really unfortunate how it's panned out, but it's actually very smart from the side of TT. So Beichuan went over to the Herald and then used his E to walk away from it in camo. So I don't think that TT had full information. They thought he might have still been in the pit doing it. And then as a result, they didn't see him path bot. And it would have mean they would have been able to make a 4-man play. And the problem was Kepler ended up dying before they got there. So didn't quite work out how they imagined. But I think the plan, the concept was pretty clever overall. The end result is you trade up, but you lose the Herald.
That's a little bit of play from Kepler there to deny the turret plate as well. Let's take another look, because this looked so good to start with the red and white, but it didn't matter in the end.
Yeah, I think the problem is the Ignite reduces a lot of the healing. And they didn't need to do that, fundamentally. They could have slow played it, right? They chose to go in super aggressive when they knew they had reinforcements coming. And I think in particular it's on Kepler. I think YaoYao engaging is fine, but I think the problem is Kepler felt like too hyped himself, had red white, was like it's go time. But a Amumu Kalista does enough damage just to burst you out, get those Ren stacked, and delete you from the rift.
Yeah, it felt like Kepler didn't do enough damage during the CC as well, right? Not that he wasn't trying to. I mean, more Aphelios doesn't do that much damage this early on. And, you know, Betty was there, locked up by the Alistar, locked up and ignited, but it just doesn't die. And then he's like, okay, my turn. Got lethal tempo, stacks up the Reds, finishes Kepler off. It's like, you can see the flaw in the plan. But ultimately, TT, it's a positive trade, right? They get themselves the 2 kills. But Herald went the way of AL, and now second Drake onto the map. But TT are going to have to answer this mid lane because that Herald will buy priority for Forge. 2 plates already taken there. Xiaohao will grab 2 plates of his own. And now AL looking for the engage. but just a tiny little bit too shy.
Looking for it now, though.
Bit of a root coming down onto YaoYao. He'll use his Unbreakable Will. There's a charm onto QiuQiu as well. He's surviving. No, taking down the reset. Comes on in, and that'll be a lot of CC for Beichuan, but not enough. YaoYao, oh, Xiaohao, sorry, escapes over the wall. In the meantime, the AD carries battling it out. YaoYao low on HP, but Forge out of mana right now and can't chase for more.
Yeah, and I think that would have gone a lot better if Betty had been there to, you know, grab QiuQiu, pull him back. I think the thought process for AL was, hey, we'll burn Alistar's ult, get away, and then we have the advantage in the fight. The problem was, like you said in last game with the Amumu, it's like once you're in, you're in. And that's why the Kalista Amumu is a strong lane, but the Kalista isn't there to drag you out again. You just end up getting stuck into it. And we see the value of Forge on this Swain there, doing that constant damage, not allowing TT to come any further, but still didn't exactly go well.
Oh, actually, flash for flash at the bottom side between the AD carries as well. Betty really wanted that 1v1, but Kepler able to keep just out of range of it. As Betty consistently trying to find that pressure. But now AL using that Kalista to buy priority on the bottom side and set themselves up for this second Drake. It'll be their first but second of the game here. And they do have a minor gold lead to work with as well. AL will still have the advantage. Remember, 4 plates have gone down in that mid lane as Hoya has to disengage on the top side from ZDZ, but ZDZ with Hextech Ultimatum available and Hoya about to turn mini. That's dangerous in the top side. Now in the bottom lane as well. Betty gonna be locked up. There's the more to follow with the stuns. Another Gravitum, but it's not enough. Betty survives.
And Kepler actually nearly doesn't in that passage of play there. The Ignite and the ult from QiuQiu close to being enough to take him down. Now, you know, they do end up getting away, and ultimately, AL don't burn much on that bot lane, just the ultimates, which will be a shorter timer. And here is the trade-off. The second time Ucal has made a move, power won't quite go down, but a lot of plates taken.
Yeah, a lot of damage to Beichuan as well. This is the classic mid-split push Swain that we all know about.
Oh, yeah.
He's almost got 5 plates as Swain mid. That is not something that, I mean, happens ever. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I mean, the Herald helped for sure, but definitely just means that Ucal either needs to stay mid or you are just going to end up losing that tower. So maybe if they see a window to play to the other side of the map, that could make it worth it. But for now, definitely a struggle. We're seeing the Crown of the Shattered Queen from Ucal. So often we can see things like Leandrius for damage output from Seraphine. Moonstone is like the old favorite, the really common one. But going for quite a defensive option here. The extra damage reduction if you get dove on, hoping to survive if, you know, we get these big engages from AL.
Hoya being forced back in the top side, and that is a crucial timing for CDZ because, look, no TP available for Hoya. Gets forced out of that top lane. That's going to mean time on the plates in the top side here. And with a Camille, you just
with
shred
Sundra.
These towers.
Yeah, Sundra Camille just means, I mean, it just looks like, what, 5-10 seconds?
Yeah.
2 plates, yeah. And then we obviously do lose the plates then, but a lot of gold given over. A 20 CS lead for ZDZ as well. Not exactly how you want that top lane match to go. And then just as soon as we see plates go down top, we see the mid tower taken by Forge. So that gold lead opening up pretty quickly.
Yeah, look at this. Xiaohao still sticking around on that top side. Bit of damage onto Hoya from ZDZ, who will look for an opportunity himself, but Hextech Ultimatum keeps him there. And Forge snipes him from the mid lane with the Demon's Eye, and the crows come flying.
Oh, I mean, that is the best feeling on a Swain, when you just throw the Visions of Empire, you get the stacks, you get the passive stacks from it, and getting the kill as well. And that's the power. You offer that assistance from a distance. Xiaohao not even needed to help out, and a second tower picked up. Now, we do see on the other side of the map, TT are posturing around bot, but this is Kalista Amumu. I don't think you can go for a dive here, even with an Alistar.
This could be really dangerous. Betty needs to be cautious. If he's the target, it's possible, but yeah, no. Looks like Beichuan will back away, and I love that. I feel like you've just you've made Swain's motto there: assistance from a distance. I'm loving it. That's a little little service coming out from Forge. Hoya locked up, and it kind of baited in a little bit here by CDC.
I was actually surprised how much damage it did, but yeah, it really chunks out. Obviously has the mandate application as well. And Hoya, that's the thing, you're trapped by the Hextech Ultimatum, not really much space to navigate. Probably would have certainly gone down if Xiaohao was to get in range if that didn't kill him, but regardless, good passage of play for AL. And once again, it's been the story of all 3 games. They have found themselves at a lead at that 50-minute point. just under 3,000 ahead. And now second Herald appears to play, but I want you to take note of the items in Forge's inventory. Mandate realize this is the spike, right? This is what you're playing for. And with the stopwatch in inventory, it's kind of like you have 3 items already. It's kind of like having a Zhonya's early as a result just for that one fight. So Forge exceptionally strong right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Forge is a monster. And just look at the difference between the mid laners, right? It's such a, you know, partly it's just the fact that the Mandate is a cheaper item than the Crown, but also the fact that, you know, he got all those plates earlier on, so able to have a big lead for himself. And it means the Herald will be taken here by AL. In the meantime, Hoya TP's down to this bottom side, sees his opportunity, and will grab that tier 1 tower.
Yeah, and now we'll see what AL look to do with this Herald. They already have the mid tier 1, which is normally the sort of hallmark of the second Herald is to take that. They're going to look for this tier 2. And Hoya, the fact he's TP'd bot means he's miles away from mid, so no help coming from him.
This is going to be the tier 2 taken. It's whether or not they can get more as Kepler's locked up, pulled back in. Flashes to safety. Oh, Xiaohao! What a kick from the man in the jungle. Xiaohao makes it happen. They're in the base and they're slaughtering TT. AL are showing no signs of slowing down in this one. A double for Betty and a masterclass out of the jungler.
They were at the Nexus towers already, diving them that deep. And I mean, Chocho threads the needle with that bandage toss, but Xiaohao, I want to see a replay of that. That was just fantastic. This is why this Lee Sin in this man's hands is such a threat.
I mean, what? We're 17 minutes in, and I love the AL. They leave the inhib as well, so no super minions for Kepler to sweep up.
And the thing is, YaoYao is trying to body block. Look at the needle threading around those minions. No cleanse for Kepler. And the thing is, Kepler has Flash and Gale Force. And despite that, Xiaohao Q ward hop flash to get him back over the wall when he has no mobility left. Man, that was just a treat. What a fantastic fight from AL.
Unbelievable. And then I loved it. Betty's like, no, we can keep going on this. We ain't done anytime soon. Fates call out Chocho. And crucially as well, I just want to quickly shout out Chocho's ult. The timing was immaculate. YaoYao was literally on his way to headbutt Chocho out of the play. But the ult comes down, stunning YaoYao, denying their headbutt. Really, really, I mean, across the board, just sick play from AL.
Yeah, honestly, one of the best team fights I've seen so far this split. Just the execution from everyone, it felt like. And the fact they were all on board to look for it. This is why AL have been such an exciting team to watch so far. Now, with a 5,000 gold lead, they've picked up that dragon, so they've got their second. They managed to take the mid inhibitor tower, but not the inhibitor. And they're in just a prime position. They are the team with all those engage tools we were talking about that TT had last time.
Okay.
Oh, but Forge might be in trouble.
Yeah, TT, they know they've got to make some plays to keep themselves in the game here. Forge in the middle of everyone. Uses the stopwatch to buy time. ZDZ comes in. It's the solo laners once more. Can they do it this time around? 1 for 1. And now the rest of AL arrive. Slow onto YaoYao. And in comes Xiaohao to finish the job. Hoya just about escapes with his life. Or does he? ZDZ says no.
Makes them pay for the attempt, and Kepler, he doesn't want anything to do with ZDZ. The Swain buying so much time, the stopwatch time to avoid the ult from Beichuan. And not only do they get the 2 kills in return, they'll also look to take that bot tier 1 and probably go for more here.
Yeah, why not? And then there's a stun on to Beichuan as well. The rest of the team not ready to follow up. Or actually, they were. It was further away from the tier 2 than I originally thought. It's another pick for AL, another tower for AL. We're not even at 20 minutes into the game yet, Orcs, and there's not a single tier 2 remaining.
Yeah, they have really set the pace on this one and shown what they can do when they have an advantage. Forge, so I mean, pops the ultimate obviously before the stopwatch, and then the timing is so great because he comes out of CC, ult from Beichuan, which is an execute, doesn't connect. ZDZ comes in and Ucal just gets absolutely deleted, and then so much time was bought. It allows everyone else to catch up. And this from ZDZ as well. Watch, he goes for the hook shot, knows the stun comes in, flashes to the side so it doesn't connect. Really excellent mechanics from that Camille.
Beautiful to see. And ZDZ, again, a player that I've been pleasantly surprised by across the course of this split. Camille is one of those signature picks for him. 60% win rate on the pick this split, and he wants to keep extending that. Joshua, that was blind. It just goes for the bandage toss, finds a cheeky little kill onto Beichuan off of it.
And this is kind of the power of the Amumu, is that if you Q and then ult, by the time the ult is over, your Q is basically back up again. Even with Beichuan probably having tenacity and runes, I would assume. But regardless, like, you can just fully layer this EC and pick someone off. So excellent play. You can kind of see the solo lanes doing a lot of the mileage in that last fight. Expected with the fact that Forge was trapped so far. But now, you know, we used to stopwatch in the last fight. He's picked up the Zhonya's. He still has that stasis available. And this is where Swain is like really strong. You have your core items, you have the stasis to buy time, and AL, they're in a position where they can keep finding the momentum. They were, it was like 5,000 gold up before, now at 7,000 and posturing around this Baron.
And realistically, I don't think TT can fight this because they're not even at a point where their carries are online. Like the Aphelios, we always talk about 3 items on Aphelios, right? Well, he's got a Gale Force and a Last Whisper. It's not exactly something to be talked about right now. Ucal is not going to be the damage dealer that TT need to win this fight.
This is a nice ward, though. Often around Baron, when you know the enemy team has to control, you have to play some creative wards so they don't get swept. They know it's been started. They have to try and at least threaten a steal from Beichuan to get them to back away.
Last-ditch effort, but there's the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and everyone piles in from AL, but a good disengage here. Oh, TT pulled back in. Forge finds the re-engage, a charm across the team, but Forge has Zhonya's. He's still alive. A kick across everyone onto YaoYao. Xiaohao denied. Kepler's alive here. Maybe a turnaround available, but the Aphelios has gone too deep. He's by himself. He tries to 1v3, and it's a bit of a disaster for Kepler.
Gotta be honest, though, an even trade with how far behind TT are, they'll take that. Jungler down, though, is the problem. Xiaohao doesn't actually have smite, though, so don't know if TT know this.
Yeah, they've got Kalista, though, so there's always some level of that smite available. YaoYao survives with his life, but I think enough of a contest here to deny the Baron. Enough from TT. They've done what was required of them.
Yeah, they stopped it. They got some decent kills from that fight. They unfortunately didn't get the shutdown from the Kalista to the Camille, and they will lose Dragon as well. But ultimately here, I mean, one thing that was nice from Forge, he was very patient with his ultimate, because initially there's that bit of disengage. But you can see how now, if you're not able to get on the back line, the power of Seraphine really is there. The big ult across zones everyone away, and then we have the Mega Gnar coming out from Hoya, which ends up being really significant here, slamming Forge and Chocho against the wall. Bear in mind, with the deficit available, this was still a good fight, but Kepler just oversteps. You know, you want to be sitting on your Seraphine, playing backline, not try to play the carry role.
Yeah, and Kepler punished for that aggression. Has finished his second item now, but so far behind what AL are bringing to the table here is Betty. I think 3 items, and crucially, 3 red items as well. That's aggression right there. That's if there was a bull looking at that scoreboard, he'd be pissed off. I'm telling you. Baron's still on the board, though, and once again, the Kalista makes it so easy for AL to take that objective down if they ever get an opportunity.
Yeah, and this Kieran's a lot easier as well. One thing was in the last fight, Forge actually, because he's got some of the spellbook, had gone Smite, help secure. That is actually still available, so they might want to try and use that. I mean, the fact you have 2 Smites and Rend, that's not a 50-50, right? That's not really fair anymore for Beichuan. And he's just going to get completely zoned out here. This time, the vision has very truly been swept. And I just think they might have to give this one up. You can see resets coming in. They may have just called this.
I mean, they can basically burst this from, like, what, 4.5k, something like that. Obviously, Forge's smite is only the 451, not the upgraded smite. TT, though, trying to contest, and maybe will get caught. ZDZ. Oh, he misses the hook shot. It doesn't matter. He's onto Kepler. Headbutted out of his ultimatum, though. Onto Kepler they go. They need to finish this Aphelios, and they will be able to do so. Health bar's low for AL, but not low enough as Beichuan chased down Ucal on the top side of the fight, trying to survive, but Xiaohao and Betty chasing him down. Over the wall goes Xiaohao, not letting Ucal escape as Beichuan finds a Hexgate out to safety.
That should be enough just to turn onto the Baron. Still have the 2 Smites, still have the Kalista up and available to go for it. And actually, you know, if you go for the Smite, there's like a mechanic with Spellbook. If you've switched between Smites, it actually does 900 damage. Like if you use Spellbook, I think twice, then Smite becomes 900 damage. They can really execute this from like a really high amount of health. Obviously, you don't really need it here. Doesn't really come into it. AL once again finding a fantastic fight, and it's just the fact that everyone can really pull the trigger. The fact that there's so much engaged, so much setup. This is where AL thrives when it comes to team fights. If they have multiple people who can decide, I am going to start the fight.
And also when they have a 9k gold lead, that definitely
That helps. That helps.
Being able to just walk forward and go, you know what, even if we mess this up, we're still just so much stronger than you are that there's nothing you can do about it. And Kepler, you know, the whole of TT desperately trying to protect him. The hook shot went over the turret? I don't know. Knocked out of the ultimatum, but Xiaohao still gets it.
Bit of a dodgy hitbox, but you know the ultimatum's still enough, and then the rest of the team will be getting. And this is the problem with the Swain, is that once you found the engage, once you start to connect on a target, the perma-slow just makes it so hard to get away again. That is why, right, when they find an engage, AL with this pick and just continue the momentum. And now they have 3 dragons in pocket. Talking about those constant slows being a problem, well, Hextech Soul will make that worse. But for now, they can use that Baron to try and push in, apply some pressure, and maybe get some more towers from TT. They've already cracked the base in the mid lane, looking to try and use that wave bot.
And I just want to go back and point out how crucial it was for AL to be as safe as they have been this game, right? They've been pretty aggressive, but choosing not to take the inhib, choosing not to overforce and not dive too deep on this one. And like, had they taken that inhib, they would not have been able to use that mid pressure any more than they've been able to pressure already. So denying so much gold by making that decision. It's great to see teams like AL that have built a bit of a reputation in the LPL for being crazy, for just going for aggressive plays. It's good to see them, you know, being cognizant and being rewarded for them.
I feel like you can really see this team has developed and become a lot smarter as a whole compared to Spring. Like, I feel like a lot of their Spring wins was just like, hey, we have Jinx, let's try and team fight and win. And yeah, using the waves well to apply that pressure.
Yeah, syncing up the waves, waiting for the top lane wave to crash at the same time, so it's difficult to defend and it buys space for Forge in the mid lane. This is exactly what we're talking about. Smart play from AL. This is a team that have leveled up massively across the course of this year, and it's just so refreshing to see.
The problem is, look at the map right now. There's 2 wards outside the base of TT. Soul is up in 20 seconds. I don't see an easy way for TT to get there and get set up on the vision in time, or even to leave their base realistically. As soon as they all want, they can just say, cool, we're done pushing, we're heading to the dragon, we're getting Soul.
Yeah, but I don't think they're done just yet. Couple of minions here. They want a bottom inhib tower, and maybe they want YaoYao as well. Gonna use his ultimate, gonna use his flash. 2 huge cooldowns out from the Alistar, and 2 inhibs taken as well. The top lane inhib will be abandoned by ZDZ, but he has teleport. I don't know if AL are backing away just yet.
Yeah, they want to. Seems like they want to keep using the minions, but Aaron's timing out a few. I think they should just back off and go for the Soul here, play it safe. We'll see if they feel the same way.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're on the same page here. They do have a 10,000 gold lead. I can see why they're feeling confident on this one, is they all group up topside now and start to try and muscle in onto this 3rd inhibitor. AL, they knew that they were strong. They knew that TT don't really want to fight them, and they're going to take every single inch of advantage that they can.
And I think that was probably the window for TT. When they're still in your base, right, when you have, you know, the defense of your Nexus towers to help you out before the 3rd inhibitor goes down. Because now, you know, I said there were 2 wards outside the base of TT. They just cleared one. So there's 1 ward, and it's on the wrong side of the map. Soul is gone. And at this point, it's not just the gold lead. The fact that your base is in shambles, there's going to be super minions stacking in. They're going to get that Soul, which is that extra damage, the extra slow as well, which is so painful to deal with. And I think now AL can just let the minions stack up, push them in, and take the end.
And just look at the items, right? Kepler will be finishing that red buff off, took the chickens. That's because he's not even got his IE yet. We're 30 minutes into this game. And I think on this reset, he'll finally finish that 3rd item. Goes back to base.
No, he still doesn't have it.
Can't afford IE. That is disastrous.
He's close, he's close, he's close, he's close. Oh, he's got it now. He's got it now. I'm gonna be real though. I don't think it's enough, right?
No, I don't think it'll matter. But look, man, I'm just kind of trying to exemplify the fact that like they are so far behind that now Kepler only just finishes his IE at the 13-minute mark, almost on the dot actually. But here we go. AL in the base. They've got the chain lightning going. Shout out Static Shiv. You are missed as they start to push in this base. I'm not sure there's much of a defense available here.
They're gonna try.
CDZ the target. bit of damage, but AL not really committing to the fight. They know they don't have to. They know they can just play with the minions here. Forge on the front line, fairly low on mana. Hoya gets a knockback onto Chocho, but he just sets up for the Curse of the Sad Mummy on his entire team instead. AL just mincing TT alive here. Double kill comes through for Betty as the base is in shambles. The Nexus to be focused as they jump onto Kepler one more time for old time's sake here. TT eradicated and AL 2-1 up.
And honestly, I feel like this was more reminiscent of this game one. We came in expecting AL, to be the team to lean into the later stages. TT, a team who had strong early games, they got demolished all three early games. All three early games, they were so far behind. And it was only that game two, they found the team fight comeback. But AL just clearly, despite the fact the scores aren't too far away from each other, establishing they are clearly the better team.
Yeah, and the early games have been the biggest criticism for AL, right? So really positive to see them winning that early game against a team that statistically has one of the better early games in our entire league as well. So a very positive win for AL. And I like that we saw more aggression locked in for game number 3 and still a tempered mid and late game, right, from AL in that third one. Not wanting to go too crazy. After losing game number 2 with a big lead, they say, okay, game number 3, we're playing this as safe as we can. We're playing this correctly, and we're getting this win on the board.
Yeah, and not overstepping. They understood that obviously mistakes were made in that game too. And there was times, they got the 3 inhibs, they didn't overstep, they got soul, they let the minions do the work. Despite the aggression they had earlier, they know how to close the game. And I think the fact that early game has gotten better is the main thing. Because I feel like, we had Spring, where it's like, okay, if the team can find a way to fight back in the team fights with like Jinx, it works. But it was so inconsistent. And now they're a team who have a decent early game. The team fights are absolutely stellar. And despite the fact they lost their 100% win rate with lead at 15, still very good at closing the game out. And with that win, they're tied in game score with EDG, so they share the 4th place spot right now, which is just crazy to think about. The fact that, I think they were 13th in Spring, and now, I know the split's obviously not over, but tied for 4th. What a sort of glow up from them.
It's not bad, is it? Tied with EDG in that 4th place position. And, the crazy thing is, them and EDG, exactly the same scores. Both 6 and 3, both 13 and 9. The only difference is that AL currently on a 3-win streak now. And you can see from the goal graph how immaculate of a win that was. Feels so good to see. And, I'm glad we got a Swain game from Forge as well. I thought we were going to go the entire series without getting to see that signature AL pick.
But I think what's great is that we're seeing them work without it, Game 1 and 2. I know game 2 obviously didn't work, but the Akali was still doing fantastic. The Silas, clearly a pick he can bring out. That was one of the question marks, because that's kind of how I felt in Spring, was like, right, if Betty doesn't have Jinx, how good is this team? And the answer in summer is AL without Swain are still good, still a strong team. Xiaohao in particular, I just think back to that kick he managed to get on a Kepler was so fantastic. And that's what makes me so excited about this team. It feels like everyone has stepped up. They've kept the same lineup from Spring, and they really know how to deliver as a unit.
Yeah, feels like the glow up, as it were, has been immaculate. ZDC having a great game on the Camille. We kind of expected that, though. We said it coming in. This is one of his absolute signature picks. It's been a pick that he's relied on this split and got it as a counter pick basically for free there. 11 KDA, 4-0 and 7. A fantastic game from ZDC on the top side.
Yeah, and